Hey guys, I'm back. It's Fifi here. We're gonna go over the last six games from where we left off. Just kind of recapping pretty much a lot of week two. So we have six games here. We got Korean Rejects versus Merc Gulag, TDP versus Bra, AIED and WLBR, Rad Tactics, and then Rad Tactics Paradox Haze, WLA and Agra Parambe, and then Coachless Tyranny and TPO Detox. Um, just going to kind of quickly go over everything that I have on here. Not all of the stats are completely up to date. I believe these two games have not been put in quite yet, so keep that in mind when we look at statistics later. All right, we're going to start with showing you where I was at last week for week two rankings on 228-25. This is kind of a in between week one and week two type of thing because there was games already being played in week two, along with some still being able to get finished up in week one. I will show if I can here. Let's see here. Yeah, so a little update: TPO, Detox, and Rat Paradox Haze. They'll play at some point. I think it's in Rat Paradox's bye week, and then we've got three unplayed games still to go. Those should be most of these should be happening this week, and or one of them might also be being pushed back for into another bye week. So we'll keep an eye out on that. But yeah, pretty much we have a lot of week one and week two done, and yeah, the East is still just blowing up the West, or the West is still blowing up the East, 13-4 right now, and it really, honestly, I don't think it gets much better. Luckily for the East here on the right side for week two, they have they should be a slightly favored here, DPK over Oversoul, but this should still be a really good series, probably the series of the week. And then Rivals versus Keg Killers should be really scrappy, really good as well. So these two matchups actually really close. Elegy and Wisteria, though, I would have to give Elegy a pretty strong advantage here. But Wisteria, they could pull this one out as well. But just personal opinion, I do think Elegy just 2-0s this one pretty easily. I could eat my words there, but yeah, this is where we're at. The last game we reviewed was 4G Sports Vanguard versus White Lotus Blackthorn, who was Valhalla. Uh, but yeah, let's get into it. We have a Korean Rejects 2-0 on Merc Gulag. That's this is probably very much of an upset for the week. Yeah, I don't I don't think there's another bigger upset for the week than that. I don't think anyone really saw Korean Rejects coming out and 2-0ing Merc Gulag in that convincingly of a fashion. Yeah, everything else here looks pretty predictable. Um, but yeah, let's look into it a little bit. We don't have draft lulls, so we're gonna do our best here. Holy crap, 41 assists on 19 kills. Kind of crazy. All right. Okay. So Korean Rejects here. Looks like everyone's full roster power, everything like that. See how they approach draft. They went after the Aatrox, Amumu, Yasuo. Um, it's an okay, some okay bands. Obviously, Aatrox and Yasuo haven't been played yet by Secret or Me Like Blood, and they're pretty counterable champions in my opinion. So it's definitely interesting that they went that in the first round, especially over like Me Like Blood's Renekton or Camille. That could have been at this first spot a little bit more impactful if you were really worried about top laners. And then yeah, Secret hasn't really been playing anything else besides Mage mostly. I'm actually really surprised that he's on the Pantheon here. But yeah, let's get into this a little bit. Merc Gulag went after Jinx, Ornn, Rel. I like it. Um, Commando, I believe, played some Ornn in week one, and they took away an engage option with the Rel. And then the Jinx, I don't think Synthetic really plays Jinx that much, so it's probably it's probably pick or ban, mostly ban for Merkurlog if they're gonna go along with that. Uh, but yeah, this looked like Korean Rejects had an interesting composition. Zyra jungle, haven't seen that in comp. This might be the first time actually that I've ever seen that actually played in comp. Um, but well done there. I know it clears really fast. I know it's not a terrible AP jungle option because it is another one of those Leandry clear type of abusing champions with the plants. They buffed it some. Never been my cup of tea. I was more into like Talia if I was going to play like a mage in the jungle, but good on Brandon. Brandon helps. Excuse me. And then our bot lane's a little weird. I don't really love Varus Rakan. I don't know how that comp really like goes. It seemed like it did pretty well into Alistar and uh what's her name? Kaisa, which is interesting because I would think Alistar beats Rakan because you just knock Rakan away every time he W's in. I don't think he can really ever get an engage off unless you engage first, which is probably might have been what happened in that bot lane. This wasn't a streamed game, so hard to tell. Bloodmark got the Nocturne here. They're really heavy AD on Merc Gulag. Yeah, sure, Camille has some true damage. Kaisa has some mixed damage. I think it is a lot though, especially if you have a Cassante and a Rakan on the enemy team. They can just kind of stack a lot of armor and they can do it mostly freely. And also to mention the Cassante versus Camille matchup isn't really, it's not all that amazing for Camille, but it's playable and all that. But yeah, it could have been worse. Me like Blood probably is the better top laner overall, but the rest of the team not holding up the other lanes has kind of been the story of week one and two, or at least these first three games. So yeah, janky little composition I think right here for KR, but it ended up working out pretty well. It does have a lot of like team fight presence and power. I will give him that, but there's not like a ton of synergy necessarily here. Uh, Merc Gulags, I would really like their composition a lot better if their mid laner just played a mage here, like a like an Oriana would have been actually amazing right here, and it's not banned or picked. Oriana was a really good pick here. Pairs really well with Nocturne, pairs really well with Alistar, pairs really well with Camille, gives you more AP, and then Kaisa can also follow up on that. There's so much going on here. I think this Pantheon pick is a very troll pick, and it didn't work out in lane, and it didn't work out in um, like roaming and getting other laners ahead either. So yeah, a little bit of a draft blunder there from Mergulag, and I think that cost him game one pretty easily. They could have had a really sick composition, and I know Secret does play that Ori. And yeah, here it is, Secret playing the Ori. um, let's get into this one. Looks like we ran mostly the same bands back. We ended up banning Zyra, letting up the Jinx. Synthetic does play Jinx. Okay, so probably a first pick Jinx. I'd guess this is them on blue side. And then we still have a lot of the same picks going on the other side. We have the Varus coming back, the Aurora coming back, which did really well the first game. Okay. And then the Jax coming out on the Cassante. It's an interesting matchup. I've never been like all that much of a fan of either side of the matchup, truthfully, but um, it looked like it went really well for Commando Ops, which is interesting because like me like Blood didn't really run it down in this game, so interested to see where he kind of got a lot of his lead from because he has 16.5K gold. And then, yeah, this Aurora did really well again. Better game from Secrate. Fug Spaghetti, it looks like, had a rough one. I do like there's a lot of lockdown, I will say, on this on the side of KR. So this Jinx and or Ori or even Lulu if you're gunning for her, um, they can't really get away from two point and click R's and Vi and Nautilus. You have a really good AoE ult from the Aurora that can lock people in. Jax just can flash jump E on your back lane. And then Verisar. There's a ton. I like that. I actually like the synergy here. It's a lot of pick right here. Not like a ton of AOE outside of the Aurora necessarily. Like they can really burst an individual target down really easily. Um, and that's looks like that's what they did because they kind of are lacking damage if either Jinx or Ori get popped in a team fight. They just can't really play the game. And it looks like Fug Spaghetti was also getting hit quite regularly by all those ults with the 10 deaths. Um, Overall, really good series from KR. This was a very shocking one. Playing a little unorthodox draft in this first game at least. I like it a lot better in the second game. I don't hate Merc's comp in this second game either, but uh, it, it feels weird not to have me like blood on something a little bit more useful. I know Casante is pretty broken right now, but this team needs a lot of help and it needs like a really strong carry top. Um, and he has to start running over some lanes. This is 2 weeks in a row where we've seen Be Like Blood just kind of go even in his lane against Nazghost and now KR Commando Ops 12. So, yeah, not great. Hopefully they get a little bit better here. And let's go look at TDP versus Bra. Actually, before I forget, we will re-rank. We do have a new sheet up. That is the oldest one. Okay, so this will be like a week. We'll do like week 2, 3. Just make it easier. And that was KR versus Merkulog. I'm gonna have to drop Merkulog personally, and yeah, they're gonna fall pretty far here. I'm gonna put them right here. They're just it's been disappointing the first 2 weeks, unfortunately, with the amount of talent that they really have. And I think KR actually performed really well. So I am gonna move them out of this. I'm gonna put them right above Merc Gulag here. And I'm going to put I'll just do a lot of this later, but as we go. But yeah, that's the new thing. Merc Gulag goes down, KR goes up. Let's move on to TDP versus Bra, and we do have some amazing draft holes here. All right, let's go. Okay, so game one looked pretty decisive. Wow, we have Darius Jungle. Okay, all right. Uh, yeah, okay, a really convincing 2-0 from TDP. Looks like they had a lot of fun in the top lane specifically. Wow. Okay. Pizza Pasta Mafia going off here. Hoodie looks like he was there. A lot of support. Nautilus Jungle. So there's actually a lot of interesting picks in this draft. Let's go through and look. So Bra takes the Wukong first. We banned Jinx, Amumu, Nautilus. Fair enough. Enemy team banned Briar, Kane, Viego, which is I think is actually not troll in this case scenario because Bra really relies heavily on their jungler alone to kind of carry out these games really heavily. Um, so not really that troll, I think, in the grand scheme of things for the triple ban. and that's kind of been their style of the past couple games here for Bra is basically put everything on your jungler. Everyone else is playing more of a utility kind of role. So yeah, we have Bra, we have Wukong top, or this is Wukong, but I you would think this would be Wukong jungle. It ended up being Darius jungle. Let's see how this kind of formulated. The response is Caitlyn Volibear. Fair enough. Both ways. I don't think the Volibear is the most insane into Wukong, so but it is what it is there. Caitlyn, again, not really like crazy into Wukong or anything either. So, but Bra ended up doing this really good utility bot lane, and Ashe Seraphine always going to be very good, very useful, no matter how hard they get shit on in lane. And then we go ahead and we take our top laner in the Jax. We do break the flex here. I don't really like that we broke the flex this early. I would have rather just grabbed Leona here. But I guess they really did want this Jax, or they somehow knew that could be a Wukong top potentially. But I think this is a little bit of a jumping the gun. There's definitely other champions that Pizza Pasta Mafia can play here that would also be good. But yeah, not almost losing the Leona because of that is kind of crazy. Um, it's a decision. They must have really wanted the Jax here blind, so it is what it is there. Uh, Bans, nothing crazy here. We banned a lot of Jax's worst matchups. Okay, to defend it. And then we just take Leona. These bans, I don't. Seraphine actually does decently into Braum for the most part. Obviously, the Braum E can disrupt Seraphine's ult, but it's not that big of a deal. In the grand scheme of things, it's really easy to knock off, and Seraphine's laning phase is just a lot better than Braum's. And like 9 out of 10 times, I've heard this that Brahms actually gets countered by Seraphine from multiple higher coaches, especially that play support. So it's not their favorite lane. It's kind of a bait newbie pick and ban, or like a counter pick. It can do like one thing, but just gets just shit on in the rest. So Braum E is the only thing that really does okay in a Seraphine. The rest is just not good. Uh, we responded with Aurora. Aurora Blind, I really like that. It goes really well with the comp that we have. It's a lot of team fight, a lot of AoE. I love it actually. And then we go with Darius. um, yeah, I know we got banned really hard here, but like, well, what is wrong with taking Wukong in this scenario and letting your top laner play something that can stand up to Jax a little bit better and is less volatile? Because you've already acknowledged on your team that you want to play really heavily for your jungler. Give him the better jungle champion first off, and then which is Wukong, and then like the Darius. I don't know. You put your top laner on something so much safer against another strong top laner. TD Phoenix, Pizza Pasta Mafia has been going off the first 2 weeks. This is this is a really bad Darius jungle game. Like I know it's kind of popping up in the meta and stuff like that, wrongfully so. Just because you have fast clear and stuff like that, it just doesn't equate to that. You can run over some games in solo queue surely, but this is just not, in my opinion, that great of a pick. Just in general, but especially in the comp scene. Yeah, Darius. I mean, we're into three melee and with Darius, which is, I guess, maybe a thought process. But it's not like Darius is amazing in a Jax. It's not like Darius is amazing into Volibear. Leona has a shit ton of CC. Like, I don't get how Darius moves in this game at all. And there's just so much lockdown and stuff that is just going to prohibit Darius from even being able to play the game. So this is a really bad. I think this is an awful draft error from Bra. Um, the Hui at the end, no idea how that matchup goes, but I bet Hui has a little bit more range in the lane, so all good there. And yeah, it looks like we just Took care of business everywhere. Pizza Pasta Mafia just dumpster top lane, even though he had Ignite. He also took grass. What are we doing? What are we doing, bro? Uh, but I mean, their bot lane did everything that they were asked to do. Play safe. They actually looked like they actually did pretty well. The mid lane didn't look like it went that horribly. This was just a straight top jungle gap, straight up, and mostly just top. But yeah, not a good look for the Darius jungle. Let's go look at this game. At least the Olaf actually is supposed to be Renekton. So that's decent, and it did okay here in this game. It's good. But this time around, we got kind of shit on bot lane. So we kind of took turns between game one and two. Game one, top jungle got dumpstered. In this game, it looks like mid through bot got dumpstered here. So TD Phoenix showing up in multiple different places here. Pizza Pasta Mafia, 11 kills, which is kind of crazy. They're just really holding it down right now. Lucifer had a game. Ari into Galio, nonetheless, is a little bit crazy to have a game too. There's a lot of pick and a lot of potential here on this comp. I do like this comp overall. The Nautilus jungle is a little weird, and they're a little bit low damage. They have a lot of bursts on their comp, which is kind of the only thing I don't really love about it until Sivir gets, to her 3-4 item spike where she's super freaking strong. For the rest of it's just kind of burst, which most of these champions can get burst to a degree, especially for the first 25-ish minutes of the game, 20, 25. And that's probably when you get your Sivir up, is by that 25, 30-minute mark. But yeah, Tristana, I'm not really a big fan of. Let's see the order this is all drafted. So TDP takes the Nautilus. Blue. I like this because if you are actually gonna play a jungle, then it's just an amazing flex pick for you. It's not the best jungle, but it's a ganking jungler, which in comp is a lot. So our response is Tristana Lulu. Nautilus does really well into both of those. So I'm a little also confused why we just really wanted this. Lulu's really good right now, but like not great into Nautilus. Sivir was kind of a weird. Or Sivir's actually a good pick because you can dispel the bomb with your E, so this is really good for the Sivir. Um, Ari blind, sure. Galio counter pick, fantastic job, makes sense. Just this part doesn't really make sense to do. Tristana also likes engage supports, so if you are gonna just wanting to play Triss and you want to make a kill lane, just go play something aggressive like Leona or Nautilus or even like a Thresh, just something that can start a fight for you so you can jump in and one shot somebody. Okay, so then we went Zinzao, made some bans here. It looks like they weren't really. Oh no, they didn't. Obviously, they didn't know it was Nautilus jungle here. Took away the Malphite Shen because we wanted the Renekton pick. I like that. Solid bans out of Bra. Like all around here. Both sides banned pretty well in this series. Alistar, Renekton, pretty decent. I like this. Overall, the comp, like I said, it just lacks a little bit of consistent damage. Olaf counter pick into Renekton, solid, nothing crazy. Playing it is another different part of the game, but it doesn't look like Guts and Maddie had um, a bad game this time around, so better for Bra here. I know TDP is going to be pretty okay this season. I have them in the good, I believe, tier. we can go up through those. Bra's gonna stay down there. I just don't think they have a. They just don't have a draft identity at the moment. Unfortunately, they need another person to step up really heavily, and their drafts just haven't been great. Um, Phoebe is now White Lotus Blackthorn. So we'll just leave it that WOB. And then where do we have TDP? Right here. TDP, I'm gonna leave right here. They took care of business this week. Don't get me wrong, but by no means is this like a crazy win. We took care of business. We showed up. We did our job. But this isn't an unexpected result in my opinion. So I am gonna leave both people relatively in the same spot. I didn't really expect much outside of that series. All right, moving on. Another one that I didn't really expect a ton out of. AIED versus White Lotus Black Rose. AID really took it to rat tactics in week one, so yeah, and that's what they did this time around with Black Rose. Looks like the second game was pretty close here. We almost had a Malbithus special here. Malbithus has been the guy who's been holding it down though for this team. I feel really bad for him because and I know they went through a bunch of roster changes. Like I think Hug Life, Moosey, and or Hug Life and Mathematics are both gone, and then Momo's down here, and the 80 year old Moosey might be gone too. I'm not really quite sure, but Malbithus has been good every single game that they played this season, and they have just gotten destroyed everywhere else all season long. Um, and that's just got to change. Like Momo 08-1 against the Aatrox top is just can't have it. Can't expect to win games here. Let's go check out the drafts. And yeah, this is the second game, so we'll go look at this first game. This could have been the second or first game. I'm not really sure. So yeah, Jinx pick is fine. Callisto Renata is really good lane. You can throw Renata in with her R. Solid. A Mumu, Seraphine follow up. I like that a lot. It's just a lot of team fight. Poppy, yeah, it's Poppy Jungle. It is pretty good into a Mumu because of the W. Obviously, you can stop him from getting in with his Q. So not bad. Aatrox blind pick. We go with Gnar here. Not my favorite matchup. Aatrox actually does decent into range because if he catches one W or in his WQ, he kind of just screws you up. And then Gnar jumps one. If he jumps a little late and gets caught by that first Q, you're dead. Absolutely dead. But we do have a Vigar blind pick. Sure. Azir as the counter. Azir's got a little bit more range here. I do like that counter from AIED. It's this is like a hard to play comp, like hands wise and everything like that. But it's something you would see in the pro scene. So it makes sense. It has like an identity. It's a good draft, just potentially too hard to pull off against better teams. Maybe we'll have to see if this ever gets kind of like punished at all. But yeah, it looks like Malbithus just sat there mid, did everything he could while everything around him was just kind of falling apart, is how I see this game. The Callisto Renata got a lot of kills in lane. It looks like this Renata went crazy. Azir, yeah, all he had to do is just take his free win from his team. Top lane got dumpstered as well. This is also a pretty easy dive on Gnar whenever he doesn't have Mega. Yeah. Not my favorite draft at a White Lotus. Um, for like the Gnar. Yeah, I think this is It's easily could be like someone's got to pick up more of a more damage. I think here out of these two, or another frontliner maybe, and then you could just put it all on Malpithus Jinx, but or Vigar Jinx, but having a little bit more damage profile that's does better into Aatrox would have been nice here. I don't really exactly know what you'd pick out of Moby's pool here or Momo's pool here, but yeah, that was not it. Also, the Poppy's actually decent there too, with the because it can stop Nor from engaging with his R because of the jump in. Yeah, it's makes sense. Has some team fight, has some AOE. Just couldn't get there. Just got dumpstered in lane. So it is what it is, but they definitely have to perform a little bit better in lane to make these kind of compositions work. And then the second game, less of the same, a lot closer, obviously. Balpithus doing his damnedest again, 9-2-5, trying to carry this. Top lane, or top side of the map, falling apart. A little bit better this time around. But yeah, like, I don't know what Momo's doing top. I really don't. But, like, it's not losing gracefully. You're down 100 CS in a, at worst, it's a slightly favored Kazante matchup. Like, you just can't have this at all. This is a top diff and a half. And then this is also carried over into the jungle yet again with Frost on the Poppy because they just take a Mumu, which a Mumu is broken right now, and it's not the most Poppy. Poppy can counters a Mumu to an extent, but it's not the most damning thing ever. A Mumu can just flash all in instead whenever that's up and win a team fight. So not my favorite counter pick to a Mumu. There's not a ton, but it was good enough, I guess. Here, yeah. I mean, even bot lane they did better. I don't know. It's not gonna. I can see why the roster did change, and I hope it does get a little bit better. And is a traditional ADC player instead, so I do know that they kind of played tougher matchups their first 2 weeks. I think this is Black Rose, right? Yeah, I mean Oversoul's pretty really tough, and then obviously AIED is really tough. So maybe I'm being a little too harsh here, but they couldn't lane against much of this, or Malbithus can. Their bot lane, maybe, probably not. Because like this was an ego pick in my mind was this Vayne, and like if this is anything else but a Vayne, I think this could have went worse for them bot lane. So yeah, let's go look at this draft. So we just take Jax again because, or no, we didn't take Jax the first time. It's curious. Was it banned the first time? Not really, but they just decided to first pick it. Probably is at the end of the day a flex pick, I would assume, if you're taking it B1, or they just figured that they have literally nothing against it. Um, we're going a Mumu and looks like our whatever our ADC was. The Varus, sure, I guess, because you're not really sure either way what it is yet. So I do like that response. This is just so ego though. We go Vayne and Poppy, but like I said, it counters zero of what's going on so far, really. But then we go Seraphine. So like this is I give White Lotus, Black Rose really good credit for this first three picks of this draft, and uh, this is all ego from Dynasty. They're just yeah, they just kind of disrespected. This is bad drafting here. Um, Casante, after some really interesting bands here. Okay. I don't know why we're banning Yasuo, to be honest, but it's fine. Uh, Cassante, you just want to blind him because you want to give Malbithus the best possible counter. Fair enough on red side. There you go, Mel Rakan. I guess you do know it's gonna be Jack's top more than likely because of they broke the flex, so Cassante does well into both. So well, Poppy, meh, maybe depends if you're using your W during her W or when you're using your E as Cassante in your all out is the only thing that really matters when you have Poppy, but it's outplayable if you know what you're doing on the champ. It's pretty broken. Mel, speaking of that, also really broken. Not sure if it's like the best pick available, but because like none of this really makes sense at all. And, like that's probably why the second game was so close because this is just a troll draft overall. Really was. So it finished up though. Albith is on the victor. He's done this a few times and he's played really well on it. Rakan into Seraphine, sure. It's just not a winning bot lane. I just hate this Vayne pick, really. I don't know. Bad drafting here, but AIE Dynasty did end up pulling this one off, mostly from the top lane, it looks like. But yeah, let's update some stuff. AAD will stay at the top. Um, WLBR. I will demote down. I do recognize that they did play against really strong opponents for the first 2 weeks, but like they have a lot of figuring out to do. They've already made a lot of roster changes, so they go kind of back into the unknown type of feeling. When Momo goes back to ADC, I think this gets a little bit better, and Malbithus is really good mid laner. So I really feel confident in those. But it's who they're going to surround this roster with is going to determine and how far they go up past this. But I do still think they're better than Bra and Blackthorn for now. So yeah, can definitely be better. It just kind of occurred to me, Azale. When did they play their game? Uh, DPK. I might not have went over Azale the first time around. I could have. Just trying to make sure. 3-2. Uh, I mean, I should have. I guess I didn't change them. Let's just do that right now, real quick, just to reflect more of what I'm feeling. I just don't think I switched those around, but yeah, that's how I would put it. Uh, go back to week 2. I did do the. I believe I did update Coachless Tyranny and White Lotus. Yeah, that looks about right. Uh, for that stage. Anyways, sorry about that. We'll go to the Rat Tactics Civil War here. And this was actually way closer of a series than I really ever expected it to be. Rat Tactics lost game 1 to Paradox Haze and then had to pull it out in games 2 and 3. Game 2 was also a 41 and a half minute banger where this could have gone either way for the most part for a long time. So very scary. This they avoid disaster on rat tactics because like you don't you don't want your main team, the one you're kind of throwing a lot of the eggs in the basket for, the one that would just play second place last season, to start 0-2 on the season. I do realize, yes, they probably maybe had played the best team at week one, got 0-2 there, whatever. But like you can't lose to Paradox Hayes here. I think this is I don't really know what happened in this game. One, it is on stream on the Rat Tactics platform, but it looks like bot lane got absolutely destroyed by Jinx Lulu, and we're playing Varus and Nautilus. That's very curious, to say the least. Wow, how did that happen? That is not a. I mean, maybe it wasn't because like this CS lead's crazy for how the game was going. This is crazy. Anyways, a lot of scaling here. Hunter looks like he did pretty well into coin flip top lane on the Urgot. I don't really have that much experience with set versus Urgot. Looks like it went pretty well for the set. Sorry about that. We were just getting farm gapped mid as well. So good. So Zelmak didn't have the best time into Gitano's Victor, and it looks like Jungle was everywhere with those 15 assists. I imagine that Jungle probably was a pretty big difference in bot lane's um, results here. I imagine the Diana really helped out, and they just were caught off guard. Maybe even early TPs from Hunter, potentially. 9, 6, and 10 is a lot of KP. So it's like a really good game for Hunter and Samurai this first game. I don't have the draft. Um, it looks like they handled Rat Tactics pretty well with these first three bands here: Kasate, Wukong, and Nivea. Pretty standard. And then they followed it up with the Ward Nar. Most teams will generally probably do this against RT. Pazanski has been learning a lot of other different carries like the Viego, and it's been a little scary. So we'll see. Obviously, Pazanski didn't have a great uh, game one here. Tom Kench, Orn, Ivern is fine. Cassidon, Asol, Srigatano. It's fine. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. 41.5 minute banger. Mord versus Volley. Pretty interesting matchup. Volley does win. Um, if played correctly, that looked like it just went really volatile. Bazanski's on the Darius top, or the Darius jungle. No ghost, no phase rush though, like we saw in Balhair. Farmed like a monster against Samurai. I mean, I don't really like it still, but they did win with it. It's a really janky comp that they have going on here. Yeah, super janky comp. I mean, and look at Bazanski's pool; it's still wide open. You still have a lot of picks for Bazanski's AD pool. You have at least Viego left, like you played in the first game, which I think is infinitely better here. Very easy to get a reset out of Malzahar ult here. It's a little bit mind boggling. I don't know why this is like priorityed or anything like that. I think it's trash, but we'll keep going. Samurai did fall really heavily behind. I did watch a little bit of this game, but like not a ton. Just couldn't keep up in farm. Kind of was the case in a little bit in the first game. Bot lane still did okay, but like it looks like a enemy bot lane was just the better one at the end of the day. Yeah, I don't know. This just looks weird. Same kind of bands as you would expect. They're hitting more of Zelmac's pool this time around, which is fine. I actually like these three bands. Putting them on Malzahar is the best case scenario. Malzahar's pretty trash, especially when you pair it with. I mean, yes, Darius, you could say, is part of that reset comp that you would have with Viego. So technically, you could say, but Viego's so much easier to pilot in that situation than Darius is. Um, Not to mention an actual jungler. So I'm just mind boggled that this is a Darius lock in. But anyways, and not Viego when it's there. Um, yeah. I don't really love the Diana pick. I don't know when it was picked or anything like that, but I would have liked to see some sort of utility, maybe jungler or something aggressive. But like, I don't think you can go something scaling when you have basically two scaling mid and bot lanes that already are gonna be losing decently hard. Luckily, enemy team has a bunch of scaling as well, so they probably didn't get as punished as they probably should have. But I mean, they do have Darius, who's just going to dumpster you on the 1v1, unironically. Um, so, and then this third game, this looks more a lot like the RT we know and love. Coin flip taking care of business on the Cassante on the Ornn matchup. We locked in Diana again. Diana's not doing much here. It's way too tanky, way too much mobility. I don't like the Diana pick here. It seems really forced on Samurai. I'm a very much I'm a fan of Diana Jungle, but I do acknowledge that there is not a the hardest part about playing her is when you can actually play her in drafts. There's not a ton of drafts nowadays that are insanely great for Diana at all times, especially in comp when Poppy exists, Janna exists, all these champions. And then in this case, it's just you're not gonna kill anybody. You're not one shotting Swain. You're probably not one shotting Cassante or Gwen. You can do that on Ezreal, but again, he has E jump away, and he's just kind of a bait because you're gonna spend all your resources trying to get onto him, and then not end up killing him because you're extending too far. Uh, I do like the drafts though. Outside of the jungle picks, I mean, I guess it was fine here. There's a lot better options for Diana here in this first game. I think this is like the only playable Diana game. This one, not at all. This one, not at all. So if you take out Diana in these game two and three, they probably win, or at least have like a compositional what's it called? Compositional advantage. I know this isn't anything crazy from RT or anything like that. This doesn't really technically go together at all, but it is Pazanski playing a 1v9 champ. It is Zelmac playing his signature Swain. It is Coinfoot playing his signature Cassante. And then you just have a utility bot lane, which is a little weird to say for the guy who just carried you in game two, Lazeri, but I digress. But yeah, we're a lot of scaling on this team for RTPH. They want to draw games out really late, is what it looks like. This was a 32-minute game, 41 and a 33. So expect to be in game for with RTPH for a while, and have to deal with a lot of these scaling picks. Definitely need to try to close out games against this team pretty early from the looks of it. RT did take out some of the scaling this time around, and they still ended up on something that is pretty scary late game. But yeah, Ashbrom, great. I always like Vigar. Ornn's fine. I just yeah. Only reason I think is that Diana pick is greedy. That being said, RTPH, like I think they're going up a little bit for me. I would at least put them, I think, in front of Merc Gulag at the moment because I do think they actually have a lot of it figured out. Pleasantly surprised with their bot lane actually. I think they rotate pretty well from what I was watching in game 2 and 3 because I did see catch some of those. Um, they're decent. I don't think they're bad. They're not as bad as I thought, or not like they're not as low as I thought they would be on this list. There's definitely worse teams that aren't doing the things that they do. I think they're a legitimate shot at actually maybe playing for like the seventh seed in the West. Um, because I think they could, if they play like that, I think they could beat Elegy. I think they could beat Rivals. I think they could beat Forge, Rejects, potentially Azale, TDP. There's a bunch of teams on here that I think they could potentially be. They also have a matchup against TPO that they still need to play, which is pretty similar level to a lot of the West's teams. So if as long as they play like they did um, in that game one and they draft like they did in that game one with more of a purpose and they think a little bit harder about what they're gonna do in the jungle, I think they're gonna be fine. Moving on, we have Azale and Parambe. I did watch this series. Hemo did not play great in the game one. Did get power, did get counter pick or this. I don't know if this is game one or two. I forget, but did get counter picked really hard here by the Mordekaiser. This was an R5 Mordekaiser. Um, and then yeah, their bot lane ran over the support. So and this Tristana was a big problem. This is the first time we've actually seen Tristana pop off in this. Don't Eat Bees and Renegade were actually going back and forth for a while in this game, and I do believe the next game as well. Yeah, they pretty insane matchup that was. Definitely lived up to the hype. Solo killed each other a few times there. At the end of the day, the bot lane of WLA was just a lot better than Agra Parambe. They were playing with two subs in Germrat and Emperor Bareth, and they did a lot of this tank composition and utility type of stuff, which I mean is fine. You can put it all on Bees. Bees is a 1v9 kind of guy, but also if you are gonna make Bees like that 1v9 carry, why is he playing Ari? Ari just doesn't do enough here. If you're playing Ari, you charm, Q, W. They might die. They probably won't. Like that's just honestly, she doesn't do enough damage. She doesn't do anywhere near enough consistent damage to I think be able to carry. She's an assassin that I can't assassinate. So what? You have three dashes, whatever. I'm not a fan of Ari. Good cheese, good pick kind of champ, but that's all she is. I don't think it's a 1v9 champion. And then you have basically three tanks that you're pairing this up with, which is just not enough damage for the amount of CC and utility that you are getting set up with and the amount of frontline you get. The Zaya, fine here, I guess, but Major's not the 1v9 type. Ag, Don't Eat Bees is. But yeah, this is actually a really impressive bot lane performance for the most part um, by White Lotus Azale. And then yeah, mid was interesting to watch both ways. Both played really well. Lullaby of WoW just did better than Emperor Bareth, but I think it has a lot to do with just how the rest of the map was kind of looking with the top lane losing and then also bot lane getting dumpstered. So this is a really good win from White Lotus Azale. I like these bans as well. Both sides. Yeah, this is fine. I like that. Can't see them here, but I'm assuming we just forgot to do tournament draft for this one. Oh well. See if we can get the get draft pool. Yeah, okay. That was a decent series. And obviously Ag, like, for having two starters and then facing Azale, who's really strong on paper, these games aren't actually like that bad. Like 9K gold lead here, 7K gold lead here. They actually did like stay in this game really for a long time, despite their bot lane getting kind of blown out of the water. Hats off to Ag, don't eat bees in both games for making that kind of happen. And this one of the games, Hemo also did pretty decently. Uh, but yeah, just wasn't great bot lane performance here from Ag, but they did have their subs. They are 0-2 on the season now. They do have one singular win against Keg Killers. I'm going to have to drop them down quite a bit, honestly. I think they're more of like right here for me right now. Really just haven't lived up to the hype. I thought having bringing in Hemo was going to be a really good thing for them after what he did for SSMR last season. And then obviously Bees is a stud. The bot lane that they had was serviceable, and then the jungler played a lot of utility, so had a lot of value there to be able to make his laners and stuff carry. But it's just not happening like that so far. They've got like CKK is decent, obviously, and Azale's pretty decent. Like they're playing these upper echelon teams, but they just I didn't like how they drafted in a couple spots, and I didn't like how they played or performed in those games. Obviously, um, but I will keep White Lotus Azale here. I don't think they can go over JRGC and JRCC. This wasn't as convincing of a win as maybe I would have thought it would have been prior to this game. So they're going to stay right where they are, just in the contenders tier. But this was a really good um, week for White Lotus. This was the first White Lotus win of the out of all four of their teams now. So that's good. That's a good stuff for them as an org. Coaches Tyranny and TPO Detox. This was actually a banger series. I would go watch this on Twitch on our uh, and it'll probably go up to YouTube eventually, but it's definitely in our Twitch logs right now. Go watch this. This is a 3 game banger series. Coach's Tyranny lost game one, came back with a vengeance in game two, but it took 40 minutes. Kind of a boring game two. Game three was way more interesting than I would have ever gave it credit for as well for a long time. Like TPO was hard to just put away. 38 minutes here, 39 minutes here, 34 minutes here. Actually, kind of a banger. There was a lot of swings in all of the games. It felt like TPO could have actually won almost every single one of these games at some point. Um, yeah, well, let's start with game one. This was I did watch the series. The Vi was crazy for them, and then the Orn got some solo kills on the Cassante. Raiding Wolves was misplaying a bunch, over tower diving, and just had a rough game. And then the Orn was crazy ahead. The Vi was just killing everybody and locking everyone down, running them down with that signature Vi Q and ult. Shuso played really well in lane against Menghao, and I think Shuso is actually one of the better mids after what I saw in this series. I do think he's actually better than Menghao. For one, um, he played well all 3 of the games. Obviously, there was some stuff he missed a couple times that I was like, oh, head scratching a little bit at, but nothing that I thought was crazy. The only thing that TPO really did in this game one that I just hated, absolutely hated, They Vayne Lulu'd blind. Like that's how they came out this season. And I hated that. I hate Vayne. I don't think it's a good comp champion. And Guile probably plays this champion a lot in like solo queue and stuff, but it got dumpstered in lane by Downfall and Romeo. They had pretty much all of this lead in lane against the Vayne Lulu, which you would expect because, you know, and they also were getting camped by Rocky. Rocky also, you need to figure out clearing that Wukong game one clear was like 340 or something like that. That was crazy slow. Um, there was a couple things I saw out of Coachless Tyranny here where I heard a lot of good things about them, and I think they draft insanely well. Like I think this is an insanely good draft on them, and a decent draft on the side of TPO besides the Vayne. But like the rest of it makes sense with the pick. And I guess I mean I would have loved to see like a Jinx or something on this team, but any other hyper carry really would have worked for me on this. Let's see what else he played. Like even Smolder, honestly, even Smolder would have worked better for me, or the Corki. And I did see this Corki actually pop off a few times, solo killing the Sivir. Uh, it was also a good moments for TPO in these other games when you watch them. Uh, but yeah, this was a game one banger. But yeah, Rocky didn't play well in this game. I don't. Rocky did kind of bounce back in this game, played decently here. And then obviously the stats are going to show him playing pretty well here as well. There was a couple. There's a couple blunders. I'm still convinced Rocky is by far and above a better support player than jungler. Um, just from what I've seen in the past, his hands are a little shaky in my opinion. But he is playing a lot of simple, less complex champions. Uh, so that does help. A lot of just utility. Yeah, it does have some strong laners and a decent AD carry to help out with that kind of stuff. But I do think the weakness of this team is in their jungle at the end of the day, and a little bit in their bot lane. But they do play pretty heavily for the bot lane from what I saw in the first three games. And TPO kind of disrespected that a little bit. Um, and then, yeah, after we had the Vi game, I'm going to stop gassing up TPO at the moment, but they actually had a really nice. They either exposed coachless tyranny as players, like drafting, they're drafting, amazing, awesome, great. But as players, there's definitely some gaps individually in how like just skills and stuff. And this could have just been an off night. It was a late Saturday night, but I was expecting more personally out of this series than what I was delivered from Coachless. I thought this would be a clean 2-0 from what I could tell and like what people were telling me from the past. Uh Anything far from it. They will have insanely good drafts, but they are susceptible in lane and then how they play the game overall. They do practice a lot though. I do think this will get cleaned up. And like I said, could have been a bad game. They had a great week one game against oh god, who was it? Wisteria. Wisteria, not the obviously a great team. Just serviceable. But yeah, TPO really impressed here. I think overall at a lot of places TPO is a better team. I think if they played a best of five, this series could have gone a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, too, it's also on this jungler. This jungler, after playing insane the first game, ran it the fuck down the next two games, and yeah, it was impressive though. They showed up to everything, and just fought a lot. So basically, if they don't have laners and they don't have push for on a laner, they are going to get their jungler's going to get punished. That's what something that Coachless Tyranny was doing was they were punishing Tat Enjoyer, and that's where Rocky started coming online after game one. Um, but yeah, they definitely need to get better, more consistent here. They were getting target banned a lot in this game three. I did notice this. I think they saw kind of the weakness a little bit. Obviously, getting triple banned in all three of the games, not a great. That's like a hats off type of thing, right? Like you love to see that, but they definitely struggled on. They definitely struggled with having a more limited champ pool. But yeah, this not great from these two games. Kind of just ran it down in the top side of the map, which was really good for them in the first game. That was pretty much the difference. Raining Wolves and Rocky started playing really well, and a Covey, which is this top laner, uh, he just didn't play well after the first game. It's just unfortunate. But yeah, this was overall a way better series debut than I thought it could ever be for TPO. Um, I'm actually, I actually really think that TPO is going to be one of the better teams in this league after seeing this series. Like it might it might seem like a weird hot take, um, and I could be just overhyping it maybe a little bit much, but especially after like you get some of these results like 22 to 6, 25 to 11, 16 to 22, they're kind of how I kind of see them is they're a better Rat Tactics Paradox Haze team. They're going to be a tough team to put down officially because they just keep playing super hard. That is how I kind of see them. I think they're actually going to be a good team. I'm going to put them actually a little above rivals and Coachless Tyranny, I will put above CKK as my little slight upgrade. Because like I said, I don't think this was a great series for them, but their drafting through weeks one and two have been light and like nights out or lights out is what I should say. Um, and CKK doesn't have that anywhere near that drafting, so uh, yeah, that's a slight edge that I'm gonna give there. But yeah, that is the kind of recap from mostly week two stuff. Heading into week three, I will kind of go through and see if I want to change any of these else just based off of different information we've kind of had. I think this looks good. I think this looks fine. OSO, it's pretty close to being in the contender tier, honestly. I think this looks fine. Rivals, I think is and Rivals and TDP are both ones that I'm kind of eyeing that could be in this tier, maybe even slightly above TPO. It'd be interesting to see TPO actually face Rivals in TDP, but unfortunately, the divisionals or the schedule doesn't allow that, so we won't really know uh, for any of these teams really, because like I think all four of these would be great series against TPO to really gauge their exact power level. But yeah, no, I think this looks about right. I might put Ellie a little higher. Let's put him here. So yeah, I think this is how I have the new tier lists. Let me know if you disagree or not in the banter or the comment section, whatever you want to do. But yeah, that is most of week two for you. We got a couple more games to be played, oversold, and they're all really good games. I think these are all 3 game bangers. See when these are going to be played. Um, Thursday for CKK and Rivals. Next Thursday for Oversoul and DPK. Kind of a long time to wait, but that's okay. And then okay, it looks like move to week 12 with some roster changes. So that kind of sucks a little bit, but well, you can only do so much. So have a good one, everyone.